Here's Johnny. All right. Hey, do I have sound? Or are these settings all messed up? 'Cause I'm starting to think my settings are all messed up. Test, test, test. Can you hear me? All right, let me see. Oh, you can hear me? Can you still hear me? No? All right, perfect. Okay, let me go put the other link in the chat. All right. Got to fix the link on Facebook group. Okay, perfect. Mic issues. All right. Okay. All right. I can hide this thing. All right. Now we can go to a cool view. Woohoo. Look at this. All right. All right. So here's what we want to figure out. What we can do. My hair's horrible. I know, but that's okay. It's weekend. All right. So one thing I want to go over is the very beginnings of pup packs and kind of at least my understanding of the design. Now, I'm not the person that built them. I'm not the person that necessarily is the authority on these. Maybe one day I'll work with the guy who made them a little more. But for now, this is how I think really people should build pup packs. And then we can, talk about any problems, post them in the chat, anything anyone's confused on. One thing is this big one, the screens, and this can't be said enough. This is like the epicenter of importance. You'll see here I have so many offs, and then I have a couple down here, a few down here, 12 through 19. And if you look at them, 12 through 18 or 12 through 15 are all pointing at 2, and then they have these number sets after them. And these are percentages. Start at 15.5% over, 22% down, and then go for 69% over, 69.5 over, and 55% down. So these are percentages, and these suck to get these numbers. I'm not going to lie. I can kind of show you how you can mess around with it and do it. But there's no simple way to do that. But this is because in my pup pack, what I'm doing is I have a frame that makes a back glass. So it gets a frame around the outside of the pup. And the Jurassic Park set is like that too. If you've seen the Jurassic Park one, I believe even maybe the Star Trek Next Generation one might be like that. But screen 2 is showing all the other screens are turned off and everything's down here. And the reason you don't want to use these screens up here, at least in my opinion, topper shouldn't be there twice, number one, but that's something that can easily be fixed. But the reason you don't want to use these is you want to point things at those. And almost think of these as alias screens. So 12 is basically, or not 12, but 13 is almost exactly 2. If you look, it's pointing at screen 2, starting at 0 and 0% in and going for 100%, 100%. So basically, if you think about this, it's saying use screen 2. Show this on screen 2. If I wanted to change this to show on the DMD, I would change that to a 5 because 5 is the DMD. Now, how do you get those numbers? I've kind of memorized them a little bit, but I'll show you kind of where I go and think of them like this. If you look here at the names of 0 through 10 or 0 through 9, and you look over here, you can go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're the same kind of numbers for the most part. So if I want to move something that shows a pup pack that shows on the back glass to start showing on the DMD, all I have to do is change these 2s to be 5s. That's how easy it is. I don't change anything else. So all those people who make the crazy sets with all the different options, yes, you need that in a way, but you don't entirely need that. Because if you set this up right, you should only have to change this file. What I usually see happen is they have to also go in and update their trigger set. And this trigger set here, The reason is it backwards? Is everything showing backwards? It might be showing backwards. If it's showing backwards, let me know and I'll fix that. No, good, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. But good. So if you look here, and I wish I could zoom in on this a little more. Unfortunately, I don't really have a way to do that too well. But if you zoom in on Google Chrome and stuff, you can see it. One of the things, if you look at these screens, is they're just using the screens 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19. I'm not ever talking to 2 or 5 or 0 directly. I'm always talking to those aliases. And that's why really those options things, those different options folders should just basically be built around this only changing. This is the only file that should need to be changed for the most part. Now, if you're going to go from setting up maybe having it on a screen and have it then splitting it into 2 screens, yeah, you might want to have something in that respect. But for the most part, you don't need to go and have this crazy setup where you're moving things around in here and changing numbers. Just don't use the originals. Always alias things. So again, this screen, all these screens here, 12 through 15, I can switch these over to pointing from 2 to 5 just simply by changing these to 5. And then if you have the 3 screen setup where you have your back glass, you have your full DMD, maybe you have like a tablet mounted up there or something, and then you have the bottom play field, of course, you're not going to have to redo your triggers. And that's what I've seen in a lot of those setups. So, when you're talking about that, you're talking about a few different files, right? And so we can go into this. What I want to show you is first the main files. There's 3 of them, right? There's playlist PUP, screens PUP, triggers PUP. Playlists is basically a very simple thing. It's just a list of all of the folders, and then you're giving it basically settings. And the settings, though, can be done from here. So you don't need to go into the file, but it's, hey, a description of what's in this folder. Randomize. Should I be playing the things in the order? Like if the files are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or should I randomly grab one when you don't specify a file name? And that looks more like this one here where I say on game start, go to the game start folder and play this at priority 1 and 30 rest seconds. So rest for 30 seconds afterward, meaning don't play again. Don't even look at the trigger executing for 30 seconds. And 1 is the lowest priority. The higher the number, the higher the priority. The lower number, lower priority. 1 is not the best. 1 is not the biggest. 1 is not the most important. 1 is actually the least important. So if you're going to make a file and you want something to play and execute, but you don't want it to keep going forever, you would basically go and put it at a low number. And then anything higher will, of course, override it. A big thing with these triggers is all these play actions. Most people don't even know what these mean, but some of these are really important in my opinion. Set back glass is if you want something to just be like a static image or a static looping video or whatever, you put it as the back glass. And that's because it always falls back to the back glass. But you can also jump back to a file if you start playing something. So let's say you start playing one set of music and then the player goes into a mode and you want that to cut into another song because they're in a multi-ball and it starts playing that other song. And then when the multi-ball ends, you want to come back and pick up where it left off in the original song. Maybe, I don't know if it does it for sure, but the Aerosmith pinball machine, the Stern official one, I think that does that. And what you do on that is you do a splash resume. And splash resume says, well, I'm going to play. And then when I stop, I'm going to go back to what I was originally doing. And that's what these are for down here. These are different modes. So when you go into the mode, I have a start and end in the mode, and I have it resume the original. Now, I haven't fully tested this all out yet because I'm still building this, but that's how you would jump back, is you could have it just play something and then and have it be a splash resume, and it would play that 3-second clip or 30-second clip or whatever, or music for 30 seconds and then resume back. Whereas stop file says, hey, if this file's playing, stop it. If stop player says, hey, stop the player entirely on whatever screen I'm on. Now remember, 15, while it's an alias of 2, is not controlling everything showing on 2. It's just controlling the stuff that's coming through 15 onto 2, onto the back glass. Hopefully this is making some sense, but essentially you don't want to use the true screens. At least that's the way I always call it. I say, don't use the true screens. Don't use 0 through 9, really. Just make new numbers down here. And I haven't found really the easiest way to add numbers down here. So if it doesn't have them, that's where you can go into this file. This file, screens PUP, and you can add new ones. And this, I'll actually fix the topper thing. So I'm going to close out of this. You don't want to be editing it when you come in here ever. Always be out of them if you're editing them directly. Notepad++ is really great because you can do undos and stuff, and it can remember a lot of undos. But I can add a 20 down here and call it test and leave it as music only 50 because I can change that in the interface. Hit save, close out of that. Go back over to, go back over to it. Open it up, and I have 20. And I can tell it this is an off, a show, a force on, a force pop back, force back, music only, or JavaScript. The biggest ones you're going to end up using for this, I use, is show. Show says, hey, I want this always on. Force on means always force it to be on. Even so, while they'll sound almost exactly the same, and in a lot of ways they are, there is actually a slight difference with that. I basically tell people this is a good page to go look at. Let me see here. I'm trying to find out my other screen. All right, let's see. So this one, Nailbuster, has a good page here where he kind of talks about PUP packs and explaining some things. And here he has a lot of troubleshooting stuff, and that's why I'm scrolling quick. You can come check this out. It's just Nailbuster. Go to his site and look at it. But there is a good part in here where he talks about PUP show. Let's see. God, I had this bookmarked, and I had to clear some stuff out of my computer right before this, unfortunately. But he does talk about, reconfiguring everything. There is a lot on the site about PUPs, and I can see where it gets overwhelming for people. Definitely. Also, there is PUP packs on a single screen. How to get that working? Not that, but right here, because I have to actually set that up here on my computer up here. Because what happens is, if you try to run a PUP pack normally on a computer, what it'll do is it will just like completely throw it to the background. Now, the new B2S 2.0 should take care of that, actually. So if anyone's been using that, I believe in desktop mode, you don't need to use this anymore down here. You should be able to do the punch without it, because I think that's built into window. It's called Window Punch, and it's built into B2S. So it might be in here. It talks about layout, custom pack layout. So I guess, does anyone, I mean, SV Zara, you're on here. Do you have any questions or anything? I know some people were having issues moving things. I think I covered that a little bit. It's basically looking at a pack and trying to figure out how it's configured to show where. Let me see if I can have any others on here that are good. Okay, like Leprechaun. let's do Leprechaun. It's a PUP table script pack. You should only use table script to customize. Okay. I can show how to fix that one too, actually, though. I think Clue, I was starting to make one for Clue, so that's actually mine, not the one built into Clue. Elvis. Okay, Elvis. This one was really confusing me. I'll answer. Actually, I wanted to know how to trigger events. Okay, perfect. Yes, I can tell you that exactly how to do that in a minute. But check this out. Whoever built the Elvis ones confuses me a little bit. Force on 2 backglass onto screen 5. Okay. And then force on 5, which is the full DMD. It says music 2 always in here, but it's full DMD. Force on 5. Okay, cool. So, but why not just send everything to 5 then, if that's going to be the case? I guess here you're getting, maybe this is the PUP showing on the DMD, and maybe he has an option of PUP on the backglass. So in that case, it's an okay setup because he could still update this and change this to a 2, a 2, a 2, a 2, a 2, and be okay. But you notice this is a topper, and it's showing on screen 0. Perfect. It's down to 16. It's set to off though, because this is probably the setup where it doesn't have a topper. So in this one, 0 saying, I want this to show actually on 0, and 0 is turned off. This is turned off. Perfect. No topper. Then you got 5 and 5. So these are going to actually screen 5 right to here. Not to 2 that's showing on 5, but then this, and this are all showing on 5, which makes sense. So that's actually a pretty good setup, because in here, he doesn't ever have to change anything. He should never have to touch anything in this, he or she. And you can see some of them are randomized. Some are set up to play in sequentially in order. If it's something where you're always calling the file by name directly in the folder, it doesn't matter about this check mark. And the rest seconds are only used, and the volume's only used, and priority's only used if they're blank in here. So if you're blank here, it's going to use that value for that folder over there. If it's filled in over here, it's going to use whatever you say here. So think of these as single line overrides, and think of these as folder settings. All right, now triggering something from VPX into the PUP. All right, this is a little different, but I did this actually recently because I was working on a table for Clue before. I'm trying to redo the Clue table because the guy posted it, but it's really old. A lot of it's outdated, and so I'm not fixing it graphically because I'm not a big graphic guy. I can do minor stuff, but not major stuff. So what I want to do on this is fix. I've been changing the scripting, and one of the biggest things in here I did at the beginning is to add this part. So what this does is there's a all of this here, and this is actually also out on the site when you're basically looking to do a PUP pack. And let me see if basically basically he has a thing on here. I'll have to find the link because I was on it earlier. And basically what that link does is it tells you in here exactly how to do it, because he has example files. But I'm going to go into it because I want to show this, because I think some people are a little confused on how a non-ROM based table works. But you can do this for a ROM based one to add in events. So right here is used for a control of pinup player. But this part under it right here, PUP event. So what PUP event does is it allows me to trigger different events, and I have a debug running so I can see which events are triggering. And what you can do is call this PUP event with a number, just a number. And what it'll do then is send that E and that number over to the PUP pack. So something in here you can trigger. So let me see. If I say cancel changes and load Clue, you'll see I put all the tables or screens down here. They're not in order. This is when I was first learning how to do this a little more. But If you look, and you can even see, I have this one pointing directly at the music channel. Probably okay because it's music sound, not image, not visual, but still probably should have aliased it. And you can also see they're all in here, the different ones. So you can just say, I want to just filter to one single one. There's a lot of interesting stuff in how this one works. And I want to show you, you can do actually some dynamic text. Like you actually asked about that, how to push scoring up to PUP. If the scoring is coming from the ROM, I don't know how to grab that exactly, to grab information from the DMD in that respect. I do know how to grab DMD, like do PUP capture, where you could say, hey, if this screen shows or this frame shows, then fire off this event. Those would be D ones over here. But the E ones are all events that I'm triggering in the code. So you can see all of these. Number 210, 210, 211, 212, 213, etc. There's a lot of different ones in here. Now, all of these are being triggered. And then also I have these down here at game over. I stop this, or I start this one, and those are going to override. That's why they have the highest number. But in here, if I go and start looking for where I call PUP event, you can see one here. When it goes into attract mode, it calls right away PUP event 205, which what that does is says, okay, 205 happened. So over here it goes, okay, do whatever 205 says to do, which is attract mode frame appears. And it puts the overlay up and it says set as a background. So that's getting put in the background right away. Now that doesn't mean it's forcing it to the back. It just means it's a background. It's treated like a background. And this is an image. You can do images. You can do MP4s. I'm starting to think OGG files don't work. I don't think they do. So D events are from ROMs and E events. Well, D events are actually kind of from ROMs. And I'm going to show you what I mean there. This I'll have to go into a little more to explain fully, but I can show you if you'd like. Is basically there is what's called PUP capture. Have you done PUP capture? Because if you haven't, this is how you capture images from the DMD. And then what you do is you put a mask on it. So it only cares about this purple zone. So what I'll do is I can show you how to do that. So let me think here. So let's close this. You have to do this in a certain order. Okay. So there's a couple important pieces. One is inside of the PUP pack folder or the PUPs folder, pin up. I'm going to show you here. I'm going to find it. Yeah. So inside the pinup folder, if I go to Grease and jump over to this and then go to, so pinup system, so V pinball pinup system, you'll see one called pinup capture in here. Okay, that's a part of it. But you'll see down in PUP cap form here, which is what this is. It says here, you should see a small DMD window, blah, blah, blah. This is when you're playing a table. It says, if not, then you need to set up show DMD1 in DMD device pup.ini. Okay, would have been nice if they told you where that was. They didn't, but I know where it is. We go into V pinball, we go visual pinball. And what we do is we jump over into vpin main, and over in here is DMD device pup.ini. So right here, you're going to change this from show DMD to equals 0 to show DMD equals 1. See that text? So by changing that to a 1, it's going to make this little window appear when the table is started. And then you're going to start this up. I always start this after. So I'm going to close out of here. So a D is actually a frame, a captured frame. And when it sees that frame, so think of it like a display. And it actually, now that I think about it, it actually does say that. If you go to this help test, you can test your triggers and stuff, not really playing the table, but you could say, hey, does this play okay? If I have these 3 things happen at the same time, do they happen how I want, or do they overlap and play at the same time and the sound is horrible, or or can I not see them because I have them layered incorrectly? So all of that you can test from here. You can say, hey, what would happen if I was to hit a switch? Switches are W's, S's are solenoids. You can do combinations. So you can say S1, W4, and W5 equals 0. So you can say, hey, when the solenoid 1 fires and switch 4 is hit, switch 4 is on, and switch 5 is off, I want this to happen. And then the counter is 20 means it will fire video every 20 triggers, meaning every 20 times whatever number is in this counter column, if you had a 20 in there, then every 20 times that that thing happens, it'll fire. But how does a PUP receive? Well, if it's a ROM based one, it's just intercepting everything going on. If you go in, let me jump back to the grease table, because grease is basically Elvis reskinned. This is actually the table I did. Oops, sorry. Zooming in on this is you got to kind of keep zooming out. I did a lot of cleanup to it, but it still was an old 2K image. You know, it's not that amazing, but I cleaned it up dramatically. There was tons of artifacting down in here and such, but it's cleaned up now. I rebuilt every plastic and everything. So it's pretty good. But I used the script from the newer one. Oh, this is something else we could talk about in a second. This duplicate definition. Those are bad to do, by the way. You don't ever want to have duplicate definitions. I'll explain why. But how it knows about solenoids and switches and everything is in the table code. You actually have to connect those dots together. So it knows what a switch is, and it knows when a switch is triggered and untriggered because you connect those. I'm trying to find in here where it connected those together. Here you go. So like kind of like this. See, switch 41 hit controller.switch 41 equals 1. So it's saying 41 is getting set to 1. That's what the PUP pack's looking at, right? And also when it's unhit, well, it changes 41 over to 0. So it's changing these things that the PUP can see when things on the table are changing. So let's look at SW41. If we want to find it, if we go up in here, type SW41, here it is. So if I turn that on, we should be able to only see that piece. Well, I left the other things turned on. Hold on one second. We turn everything off. And now let's do SW41. And if I toggle it, we could see where it is. I'm trying to see it appearing and disappearing. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So SW41, in this case, is this rollover here for this lane. Okay. So when it goes over SW41, when it goes over this, in the time it's going over that, it's going and saying, oh, it got hit, set 41 equal 1. And then once the ball's not on top of that switch anymore and it's not engaged, then it says, oh, send to 40 controller.switch 41 a 0. So it changes that flag. So it's basically a flag and it's turning it on and off, you know, and that's how it's telling the PUP what's happening. Same thing with lights, and same thing with anything else like that. It's trying to communicate over to it. You know, you can see here some things even like a slingshot, it pulses a switch. So, you know, all of it's in the code, because without it being in here, it wouldn't trigger it wouldn't be able to send over to the PUP and tell the PUP it happened. Most of the time, though, I'd really say if you can, trigger most of your stuff off of the PUP frames. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's get that going here. So if we go over to this thing here, this REM thing, that was me switching between programming languages one day. I turned off this sub because there's two of them. As you can see, there's one here and one here. A subroutine name has to be unique. You cannot put the same subroutine twice. If it sees two versions of the same subroutine, what it will do is it will ignore anything after the first one. And it just can't do that. So basically, I turned off any duplicates. When it says there's duplicates, I go in the code, I find them, and I basically put just a little single quote in front of it that turns it off. See how it goes green? Now it's back to colors. Um, this one is a whole different one that has a start and end. This one does have a start and end. It's just all on one line, and then it has a comment after it. So that's the subroutine right there. You could put this on 4 separate lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. The colons are just separating it to allow you to put multiple lines on one line right there. Okay. So we got that. So how do we get this PUP frame thing going so that we can look at it? Well, we're going to go and say table play. Now what we should see happen is a little window should appear in the upper corner here once I start up the other piece. Let's see here. I've been off and on with this today trying to get this working. Cannot find PUP cap window. Okay, so no, it didn't. So maybe it's let's see. Maybe I'm supposed to have that on first. So we're going to close this out too, just to be closed out of everything. All right. First steps, open up the PUP capture form. Second step, we're going to open up VPX and let it execute the table right off the bat. We may get some sound here and stuff. Hopefully it'll start playing Grease, but I'll just turn my sound down because I don't need it up anyway. Okay, and let's see if it's there. Yep. Okay, this tiny little guy. He's right here. He's not coming to the forefront, but he's there. I see him. PUP DMD form right there. So I think if I got him, there he is. See this tiny little one in the corner? Zara, that's the one. That's the little guy. So not this guy, but this little one in the corner. And in here, watch what happens if I say grab PUP window. Now it's showing it. It's watching this little corner window. And what this is showing is whatever that's showing. So when I'm on the table, I won't be able to show you, but whenever I'm on the table here, it's whatever's in that corner showing. So there you go. Now they're both running simultaneously. So it's basically capturing that. Now you can start this and have it run for a certain number of seconds so you can play the game. Well, yeah, PUP capture is for ROM tables only because it's capturing from the DMD. You could typically if you're gonna be making your own game where it doesn't have a ROM, then you would trigger the DMD events in the code using that the PUP event. So you would use events, and so whenever you have, like when the ball drains and you have it do whatever to total up their score and show a bonus, that's where you would do that stuff. So I'll actually jump back because I do want to go to this I'm going to go to the clue table again because the clue table is all written. It does not have a ROM. And so in here, anytime there's an event that it calls, it goes down there and like, here's one, case 16. So we can see here, rules, title A, bonus multiplier 1. And you're like, what is PUP player dot label set? Well, this, you can actually send dynamic text to the DMD or to the PUP screen. So you can say, send this all to this. Now, what this is doing is using something they basically started up, and you can see it's using a DMD attract timer it's running in. And then there's another set that runs in something similar. But this is going through and is saying, show the grand champion information. And it's actually reading it from the save file or in the database where it saves the high scores. And then it's going and reading high score 1, high score 2, 3. And that's because this is basically an array of 4 things. An array is just like for the same thing. And then he has some like thank you screens, thanks to JP Salas. Um, Meanwhile, the rules are showing at the top of the screen, and you can see collect any three blue, blah, 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 blah. So these are all different screens that come up. And it's like, how long should it stay on the screen? What font size and everything. And there's also a file on I believe it's on Nail Buster's thing, where he talks about that and downloading it and how to control that. Let's see, PUP events, pinball virtual. Let's see, capture. Well, let's see if it's in here. Ah, yeah. So see, so this is the page. This is the page you'll want on the Pin Wiki. This PUP capture page is the one. So like look up creating PUP packs. There's one in here of adding PUP pack support to a table script. And then he has the part in here of if you're doing it for, oh, see, here's where he talks about splash reset and splash return, meant to be used with a looping file. See, if this is triggered while a looping file is currently playing, then the splash reset file will play to its end, and then the original looping file will resume from its beginning. You know, stuff like that. Splash return, and I don't think all those are in there now. I think it's splash resume. It doesn't have return and reset anymore. It might have reset though. I think it's resume though instead of return. But down here, there's one file. I'm trying to find where it is. I think it's at the top because I didn't see it down there. He had two. Sorry, he had two different ones. He has one file on here, and I can tell you what the file names are. Let me see. I got them on my other screen here. One sec. One of them's called PUB DMD reference, and one is framework starter. So, like this framework starter is nice because you open this up and it basically gives you like the folder structure, and it has the three files and everything, and some folders like for where you should put your fonts and stuff. Now, this is if you're going to do it where you do it using PUP Player, and making your own DMD screen and everything. So it has the code segments in here. See, it tells you how to do it and everything. So this is the non-ROM stuff. See, all over. Remember, it's best to make a bunch of MP4s with text and text animations. Looks the best, and that's true. You don't, versus using where you're doing the text on the fly. But if you want to do a score, I mean, that's kind of the way to do it. But he talks about also in here, there's a note about future pinball. Then there's also one other one. Let me see if I can find that one. I think it's this file, pinup player reference. Put this in the top of your VPX script. True if using pinup player videos. And this talks about basically pinup player. And that was that other thing I was kind of showing. So if you're using multiple displays, he talks about, how to call a video, the change PUP flag. So that way people can turn it off if they wanted to. If you want to have a PUP built into the table, but allow people to turn it off if they don't want to download the PUP pack, let's say, for whatever reason. Other things that are in here, if you want to play exact file name, there's a lot in here, to be honest. And then this thing is pretty good too, though. And this goes over how to play, like how to call the different calls in a little bit of a better way. And you'll see here, PDMD is the screen number, 0 to 5. 1 is default DMD screen. And they talk about this, and this you saw over in the Clue one. This is how the Clue one was kind of done with the fonts and how long to stay up and everything, and the percentage and the weight, yada, yada. It's a lot, but you look through it and how to get it. You can even put things on angles and stuff. Whether this all was ever implemented, I don't know, but there is that where you can make the PUP DMD and you can make a PUP pack. So if you've ever seen some of JP Salas's tables, the Chrono Trigger table is a really good example of one that has like a PUP DMD. So if you haven't seen the Chrono Trigger table, that one's like that. I think there's a JP Solis's Pokemon table, maybe is like that too, where it has like a DMD that's just all generated and it's not using a ROM or anything. But there are some like that, and that's using a PUP DMD or Ultra DMD. I think they may be calling it now. And in the folder, you end up with let's see, it's like in the visual pinball. I think it goes in the same folder as the tables. Yeah, like Blood Machines DMD. See, they have one. So see how they have these pictures here, and they have a font folder and videos. That's how they're making their DMD and everything. Score overlay. So I don't know all of this what it's doing because I haven't looked at this ever, but this is pretty much using a custom made DMD. Clue had one in here. I was starting to work on one actually for it, but Leprechaun has one. If you look at Leprechauns, that could be a good one to use as a guide. I mean, it's pretty basic. Scoreboard background, black and black, two different black versions. I know there's other ones. Oh, Star Trek LE, but there's a lot of them out there, so you can find those too. But there are ones where they have an Ultra DMD kind of thing, and these Ultra DMDs, that's what I kind of think of them as, another way to do that. So I know I wanted to look up a couple of the questions people were having on the Facebook stream or Facebook page, because I was seeing a lot of questions on there, and it's a lot of times it's the same questions over and over that people are having problems with. And I definitely understand pup packs are confusing. Don't get me wrong, they are. I come from a programming background, which is a lot of the reason why I think I understand this stuff so much. But it's one of those things where it's VB code. It's almost visual. I think this is Visual Basic Programming code, visual VBA. So if you know VBA or learn it, just go on out there, watch some videos on YouTube. VBA coding, you'll start understanding how subs work and how things are called. I will tell you, there's always one called Table One init. Maybe not always, but everything I see, this is where the code usually starts executing. You can see right here, load table initialization. And that's because the table's name in here is actually table one always. If you change this name, well, you'd have to change anything that is talking to table one. You'd have to change that reference. And that's because that's what it's set up to do. So table one init is it beginning the table. And this is where it starts and how it starts doing the things. It's calling whatever it needs to. Here's the plunger, the different stuff. It's doing some sound effects, executing and stuff here because he's using some different stuff. I haven't updated a lot of this. I plan to, but it's kind of like almost like a rebuild of the code of the table to use like the newer physics and such. But there is a lot of stuff in here that's initializing and such. Some of it may be really old. It's nice that he has a load high scores routine in here. That's one other thing. As you know, feel free to go in and look at the scripts of other tables where it's doing something you want to do. If it's built from the ground up and you're building one from the ground up, don't steal it 100%, but you learn from it, copy it into yours. I don't think copying a code segment is bad. I think we should share code segments. We shouldn't be sitting around trying to rebuild the wheel over and over again. We should be basically sharing the information and using it to make better and better tables. So, yeah, so he has a flag for free play that's checking here. I mean, just everything, because you have to tell everything to do because that ROM isn't there telling your table what to do, and then you're just kind of passing it over to the table. The ROM, that's the way I think of it, at least, is a ROM. When you have a ROM-based table, acts as the brain and is sending all the commands to the different parts of the table, the body, right? Instead, you have to make the brain. And that's why the table scripts where they're an original table usually are a lot bigger. They have a lot more. And this is where that beginning table kind of, you can see this is when we end the table, when you close out the table, it says, hey, okay, save the high scores. And if B2S is on, then stop the controller and end. So this is like the end routine. This is if the table's paused. And then there's other things down here. Okay, if they're holding down this key, do this. If they do this, do this. Key up, key down, info steps, all the stuff to move it along. The clue table that at least my partial rebuild here is pretty good because it's still using the manual messages where we're sending messages, calling a routine like P message here and passing stuff over to it. And then in P message, if I go down and I say find that, it's going, eventually I'll find the subroutine of that. If I say sub P message, there it is. So this is saying, okay, this stuff was sent to me and I can tell what's it received. Okay, the first parameter was the message text. Second was how much time to show it. This was the color. And then should it blink or not? And so then it's using that to do something here. I forget what this all is. If blink 1, then this is how it formats the message. Otherwise, it formats it not to be blinking. But yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff in these tables. And this is where you get into that more advanced kind of stuff, trying to decipher what the tables are doing. But I'm always around the boards. I'm happy to do live streams and help people troubleshoot table scripts. I know a few people have had issues with ones, and I've been able to help them just one-on-one before. Somebody says, okay, here's one. This one guy's having trouble with this PUP pack. Let's see what he says. He goes, wonder if someone can help with the $6 million man. I have it working as it shows the intro and overlay. The only trigger I get is for a lost ball where it plays the 3 videos in the folder. Nothing else in the PUP pack works. So, this guy says that works for me as a table and backlash, but I don't see anything in the script. You don't have to if it's using a ROM. So if the $6 million man table is a ROM-based one, let's see. Yep, and it is. It's a ROM. So that's why that one's not going to have a ton of stuff. It doesn't have to have anything, really, in the table script. And that's the thing to keep in mind. I do know some people have had PUP packs break. When I upgraded B2S, just a little tip of fun here, and maybe we'll go out on this, is that when I upgraded B2S, I created a folder inside of tables. I also tried doing it where I created a new B2S folder at this level. I tried one at this level. Every one of those caused problems. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm just going to keep all the files where they were. And that worked. The reason it caused a problem is the DLL was still trying to talk to the old location. And it was doing it like a relational path. So it was trying to go right into vpin main from where it was going up one level. So it was saying, okay, I'm here right now, the file, like kind of like this one is, right? And let's just say it was this DLL. It was going, okay, I'm going to go up one level, and then I'm going to go into vpin main. Okay. And then it was looking for the ROM in here by going into ROMs. Cool. Well, what happened when I made a folder inside of here? Well, now it was in a folder called B2S, and it went up one level, and then it was looking for vpin main in here and saying, I can't find the ROM. And so it basically broke that. And then other things that talk to B2S were broken because all of this stuff kind of connects together, right? It's all kind of connecting together and talking, and everything started not being able to communicate correctly with each other. Parts were working, but not all. I was able to actually get around it by putting the stuff in the table script like it was a non-ROM table, and it worked, which led me to figure it out. But when I have more time, I'll try to get the file that I used to find the issue, and I can show that off because that file, it's allows you to see in your OS where there's broken DLLs, where it's like what things are calling it and what it's looking for and can't find. And so it helps you find those broken ones, and you can even try to fix them from there. Sometimes it lets you, but sometimes it doesn't. That's Windows, right? But yeah, you can do your own original stuff and control it all through here. You can do the PUP capture. Oh, I didn't finish the PUP capture thing I was showing off, but basically what happens is you start this up and then you can browse your captures and it'll have a list of caps in here like this. And so these are all, it'll have screenshots of every screen. Like, look at that. So it would do, you know, and so then you can tell, well, I want to look for this part of the screen and say set matchbox. So that's what it cares about. If it sees this exact orange thing in the real DMD, and you don't have to have it turned on, it'll still see it. If it sees this in this spot like this exactly, it'll go boom, and it'll fire off whatever number you give it. And this is important. Never, 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 never put letters. Always in the PUP capture folder, everything should just be a number like this. And nothing should be in subfolders. I was doing some testing, so that was just there. But I built a lot of these today, replaced a lot, and I got a lot more things actually working on my on the grease table. So soon I'll be releasing an updated version of the grease table in English. It's going to be a new table, new PUP pack. It's based off of the Elvis mod table. It's really nice, the lighting and everything. It's just really, I mean, I just, you know, why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it to be to impress anybody. I'm doing it because the table's a little outdated and it needs kind of a facelift. And as far as cosmetically, and because they made that great Elvis table, Elvis Mod 2.0, they did all this cool lighting stuff and everything. I just kind of, you know, jumped in and took off with that. And I will tell you, it works great. I mean, I love how that looks. I think that looks like a pretty nice table. Oh, on VPU, I am actually Judd Remy, Jud as in David, Remy. Hey, World of Virtual Pinball, how you doing? Just we're getting to wrapping up. If no one else had any other questions, if there's something you want me to cover, let me know. I was just showing also, this is the grease overhaul. Funny little fact I found about the Elvis mod table is they didn't notice they accidentally left a gap here because the parts of this, a lot of this is the Elvis mod table. The Elvis mod 2.0 is the engine. But then the table, I made a new version of the table, like redid the art parts, most of it, put little Dannies on the front of this over here. If I had a virtual reality helmet, I'm sure it looks really cool. So this is actually a graphic asset inside of here. Let me see if I can pull that up. If you go into image manager in a table, you can look at the images and you can see here what I did is they have two versions of everything. They have a light on, light off. And I had to make a new apron. I'm noticing there's a little black dot there, so I have to probably fix that sometime. But this here was the background from Elvis or from the old grease table. And what I noticed is when I was messing with it, I was like, oh, dang, look what I just saw is that gap. So I have to figure that out. I had to make a new back wall. Some of these were their things. I had to rebuild this from scratch for ours because we call it gifts from Danny instead of gifts from Elvis. Yeah. If you got any questions, let me know. Gifts from Danny, another one. This one has the little lights. This is this piece along here. So if I go back to the table, you can see the two pieces of plastic. The dog is a jukebox. It's a little messed up, the graphics on it. I found the jukebox on the black and white version of the table and brought it over to here. But I will say this plays really nice. When you go into the different modes down here, what it actually does is it plays an intro of the song. And then if you own the song, you'll have that. I'm going to try to bundle in some music version of it or whatever. But I also have made edited versions of the songs that work perfectly where it doesn't have the whole song. It just kind of has a segment of the song and it'll loop it. So I'm going to try to see if I can put that somewhere that people could procure it. But we'll see. For the most part, I want to try to keep as legal as possible. There is some Casey Kasem in this. If anyone knows who Casey Kasem is, There's Casey Kasem calling out the top 10 countdown when it plays it. It plays a little bit of the song from whatever song it is. And there's 19 possible songs on the Elvis table. So we made 19 possible songs on the Grease table. It just plays a tiny little segment of the song. But first, it plays a little segment of Casey Kasem saying which number it is in the top 10. And I actually got that from a David Letterman. Casey Kasem was once on David Letterman, and worked out really nice. When it hits things like this note over here, it says it has a Sandy drop, several different ones of people saying Sandy's name in the movie. When this leaves, it says Sandy left the drive-in instead of Elvis left the building. And I'm noticing these might be missing the Sandy has. So I got to look if I forgot to add that on the table. We go together right here. We go together instead of all shook up. There's blue suede shoes became one that I want, which is very small. It's hard to read, but it's one that I want. This is hand jive. Yep. Top US countdown, exactly. But this is hand jive. If you start this up enough, it goes into rock and roll is here to stay. And then up here, and I still want to redo these assets. This is the hotel in the original table, and they changed over to the garage from Rydell High School's garage in Greece. I want to change this though to be a garage with a garage door here instead of these doors. So a little bit of stuff. I had to rebuild these ramps to say T-Birds on them instead of Elvis. And then this says Pink, like the Pink Ladies, instead of King. NBS, National Bandstand instead of American Bandstand. In Greece, it was called National Bandstand. Up here, the lanes are called, they say KZAZ instead of WLVS, which is what they had on the original. Yeah, I know. He just, yeah. I can't, I was about to say that that's just a couple years ago, but that's almost 10 years ago now, which is just crazy. But yeah, the Danny instead of Elvis over here and stuff. This is a really fun table, and the video segments, and there's lots of segments for tilts. There's lots of segments for ball loss and stuff, where they just a little bit of mocking by the table of the player and such. Some good segments that play when the table ends, even high score ones. So I tried to put a lot of different things in. There's, God, I don't even know how many segments I've made at this point. I've probably spent definitely over 100 hours on it at this point. So, but when you start the table up, then you just go. It's just got, video playing, and you get the back glass. And I think I have it up on my other screen right now. So, but it's just so much stuff from Greece in it, and with the images and the backgrounds, and like for instance, I'll just show one last thing here about this. And I'll do more about the DMD captures another time, because I think that could be a good one to go over, is how to do those. There is an old video Terry made up on, if that other person is still watching, Zara, if Zara's still watching, there is a good 2-part thing of YouTube right here that these might be worth watching for Zara. Terry Red did them a few years ago, 5 years ago, but it's pretty much the same. So overall, those are good. Oh yeah. Oh well. So for that, there's a guy working on redoing Elvis. So what he's doing is he's using serum, and he's actually doing. If you look in the VP universe, actually here, I'll show you real quick. I'll show you, because it's pretty nice work he's doing. Me and him have been working together a bit in the respect of in the respect of redoing Grease. And what we thought that would be best is if we redid Grease, and at the same time he was redoing the PUP. So I was like, or sorry, he's redoing the background, the DMD, and I'm redoing the PUP pack, and I'm redoing the table and all the assets. So here's Elvis, right? But look at what he did. He's also made a version that's Grease, and here's an idea of the kinds of things he can do. So here's his Elvis version using serum. I think that looks awesome. But then this is from Elvis, right? But what he's doing for Grease is he's doing different things. Let's see. That's still Elvis. So this is all Elvis stuff, but I thought he showed something other than the one. Maybe he hasn't. He's still been working on Elvis, but you can see he can do some really cool effects with the lightning, even though the original doesn't have an effect in here. And the tilt screen on Elvis, I don't know why, but that's what he did. See, he can add more graphics than it had. Like this one with the cameras flashing and everything. He added that, Um, I thought that was kind of cool. But this, look at that. So these are all different frames he captured and stuff, and so you can see kind of how it animates a little bit like that. So this is that king of rock and roll, and he has to colorize every frames and everything. So look at the scarf one. I mean, and look at the little sequins on his back, or the record. When the record's spinning, it's changing. These are different records or different colors. But look at the colors of the notes coming flying out. He had to keep those and fill in those notes as they're out. Now, what's cool is you can reuse parts of it if you do masking right, but it's a pain in the ass. I can tell you. But yeah, he's going to then redo all the assets to where they're based around Greece. So instead of it being this, the beginning screen will be like this Greece part right here. So he can redo any of them. Basically, if it can find a frame, you're not colorizing it. You're actually able to change it too. Yep. Yeah. So basically, the ROM. If more people start doing that, think about anybody who wants to reuse the ROM from a table and the rule set, but completely retheme it. Now they can just retheme the ROM, or the graphic assets on the way out. They don't have to change the timing or anything, but they just have to go and do overlays. Is really what they're doing, is saying, hey, when you see this, show this and such. It is time consuming and such, and they're working on things, but yeah, I'm very impressed with what he's been doing, and it can play in with what I'm doing as well of the timing, but yeah, when it sees a number here based on the number for the top 10 countdown, and this is very dark even on my screen, the name of the song down here is an Elvis song, but we're changing those to be Grease songs. And the coolest part of Serum is that, and I didn't even mention this to Zara, but if Zara's still around, the coolest part is that with Serum, you can actually trigger events in PUP packs from Serum. So the ROM going to serum can trigger the event. So therefore, you don't have to have a capture frame in the folder. Serum can actually trigger the event to occur. So definitely a cool thing. But yeah, and I'm hoping to finish this soon ish. Just have a few more videos to make, but I don't even know how many I've made that are animations and such. Like just even little things like this, where it's like, plays like a little segment where she's like, "Oh, I'm so nervous," and he's like, "Don't be," She's like, I don't want to get stage fright. Yeah, and I think it's good that more people are using Serum. I think it's the best one yet. Not saying the old ones were bad, but things evolve over time, and Serum to me is the next evolution of colorizing. But I did this. I did some crazy things with the sound. It's okay. It's not amazing, but it just does a little grease lightning segment there. I'm trying to add lightning effect across the screen. I actually started working on it one day. I have to come back and finish it. But there it is. But you can do this one guy had a video up on how to do a lightning thing like that kind of, but it wasn't done yet. But being able to make lightning and then have a bunch of these intertwine and have it move fast, it can create like almost like a lightning, a weird science effect if you've seen the movie Weird Science ever. Yeah. Yeah, and at the end of Grease Lightning. So when the modes end, if you drain down to one ball, I believe in Grease Lightning mode, which is Heartbreak Hotel in Elvis, then the mode ends. So this comes up and Danny's just nodding his head and kind of looped it forward, looped it backward, and kind of tried to give it a look. And it's a little bit weird halfway through it. It has a weird nod, but and that camera jerk. So I got to see if I can get rid of that little camera. But I do like the nodding of his head. So it's pretty neat stuff. All of this to mess with, but I will say, um, a few times I've had to redo stuff, um, because the way I was going to go didn't work out, or what I was planning on doing didn't work out. So it was like, okay, well, back to drawing board. Um, and then I figure out something eventually, and then I'm able to move forward. But there are like ball lost ones where Danny's doing the hurdles. This is one of them. Watch this one. He eats it, or there's just this one, and they have audio. Most of them have audio where he's just like, he's just like, so kind of fun, but oh, and one last one for everybody here. This is and these aren't even the tilt ones, but watch this one. So, yeah, Danny's face when that hits is kind of great right there, where it hits him. Yeah, I love that. It's a great face, really is. But yeah, I've been working on this. Like I said, probably over 100 hours. Um, scenes are all from a Blu-ray rip. I pulled my own Blu-ray, so they're really high quality and just you know good deal. But yeah, yeah, fun times. But all right, well, I'll try to do another pup pack segment now that I got my streaming setup back going. Be a little bit easier next time. But well, thanks anyone that did join me, and anyone that watches this. Give a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe if you like. I don't. I'm not trying to monetize or anything. I got a full time job, a full time wife, and a full time kid, and so I'm definitely happy with those. And this stuff is for fun, and I love learning this stuff. And Grease is a great movie to me, so I wanted to make a new pack, and I think when everybody gets a hold of this thing, I think this thing is gonna I think this thing's gonna conquer the charts because it's a Elvis is a great table, just not a great theme for me. Grease, much better theme. So have a good evening, everyone, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.